Good early morning here from Tucson. Been out on the bike for about an hour and 20 minutes or so. And I'm out here in front of Colossal Cave Mountain Park. This is a really cool little place to come and visit if you come to Tucson. And we're way out here on the east side. And I'm out on the canyon. And I thought I would do a quick third update. So stick around. I'll show you what I've done on the bike since the last video and give you my final impressions. Thanks for watching. As I mentioned when I was out on the road on the bike in the intro, this is the third video on my Canyon Ultimate CF SLX 9.0 disc. And I wanted to update you basically on a couple of the things I've done to the bike since I did my last video and give you the status on whether I'm keeping it, and then discuss just a small little problem that I discovered again with the way the bike came to me. If you missed the first two videos I did, basically, the first one was an unboxing, a quick assembly of the bike, and what I thought of Canyon's ordering process and the customer service up to that point. And I also mentioned why I chose a medium over a small at 5'9" and with a 31.5-inch inseam. Video 2, I talked real quickly, just first ride impressions, and I was dealing with a seat creak issue that I finally got figured out, and we discussed that in the second video. So here at number 2, basically the big thing I wanted to talk about is I am keeping the bike, and because of that, I finally cut the steerer tube. I did leave a 5mm spacer on top, and I am running a 2.5 currently underneath the bar and stem. And I wanted to have a little bit of adjustability down the road just in case, and I figured when I sold the bike, it would be nice for the new owner to have a slight bit of choice, at least a little bit of steerer tube left to play with. The other thing that I've done since the last video is I have converted my tires to tubeless, and these rims and the tires themselves come tubeless ready. Canyon does include stems with the bike package, so it's a very easy and quick conversion. Basically, you just put your stem in and then add the fluid inside the tire, pump them up, and you're good to go. I've ridden 3 times on them so far, and they're great because you can run slightly lower pressures and you don't have to carry a bike bag with you for the most part. I carry a tube and a little bit of CO2 just in case, but for the most part, you're kind of good to go unless you get a giant hole in your tire. Now, that brings me to the one little issue that I was talking about with how the bike came. The little stems that they sent did not work with this wheel specifically. And my guess is that Canyon possibly sent me stems that go with maybe their larger aero wheels that they sell with their bikes, because these guys are threaded, if you're not familiar with tubeless, and I wasn't up until the other day. And there is a little cap that you thread on to keep that stem nice and tight. But the ones that Canyon sent me do not have enough of the threaded part down low enough to allow this to thread tight. So I had to buy some separate stems to use on here, and I'm going to contact Canyon and just see if that's a possibility, if that's what happened, or maybe we were doing something wrong, which I don't think, because the mechanic that did them for me does these all the time. So not a huge deal. These little guys are between $30 and $40 depending on what kind of stem you go with. But at this point, they're working great, and I have really no complaints. As far as the overall bike experience has been, I'm loving the medium. I'm glad that I went this route. It has me a little more stretched out than my Cannondale here, and I'm really liking that position. The front end on this guy is super stiff, which took me a little bit of time to get used to, but I'm loving that. The SRAM Red shifts beautifully. The power meter that came with the bike has worked flawlessly with no issues. And really, once I got that seat creak figured out on the second video and then adjusted the shifters a little bit, the left-hand side one was just kind of out just a little bit. Not a huge deal. It's a very quick and easy adjustment. But besides the stem, the seat creak, and this, everything else has been perfect with the bike. I was a little disappointed with Canyon's customer service as far as following up with the seat creak. I had sent in a video to them, as I think I mentioned in video 2, and the supposed tech team was going to get back to me. I never heard from anybody, probably because they knew I just didn't, maybe they knew I just didn't put enough grease on there or something, and they didn't want to bother with it. But you know, when they're selling you the bike, they have no problems being nice and friendly. But I was a little bit disappointed that they didn't get in touch with me about that, but it is what it is. Easy fix, and again, it was my error, and I think it's just because they don't really give you enough assembly paste in that little packet. You really have to grease significantly down in the seat tube and then on the post itself, and that's all it took if you missed that video. Otherwise, that's about it, really. I'm loving the bike. I've put an additional probably 300 miles on it since the last video, if not more, and I've probably done 40, 50 miles of climbing here on Mount Lemmon. So it's been a great experience. I'm really loving this bike. And one of the things I think I mentioned in video 1 that I wasn't too sure about, and that was converting to disc brakes. And I have to say that I rode this exclusively for about 2 weeks, and then I switched back to my Cannondale the other day. And it was actually shocking how much quicker the discs stop. When I went to brake on this guy, just leaving the parking lot from the dealership the other day, I was like, wow, that is definitely different. Coming from here to the Canyon, I didn't really notice it at first, but it is pretty significant. And as we've talked about before, disc brakes are supposed to be really excellent in the rain. Not that I ride in rain all that much, but I'm enjoying them. Other than the fact that they do squeak a little bit here and there. It seems to be just my front one every now and then, but it's not that big a deal. So anyway, if you all have questions about Canyon, I'm certainly not an expert, but I'm happy to help in any way that I can and share my experience with you. So you can leave your questions and comments below, or you can contact me directly by email, which you'll find in the description. And I'll also leave the video description for the first 2 videos. Thanks so much for watching, and hopefully I'll have some interesting riding videos for you soon. Take care.